when I show this to clients and gaming operators, and they get to ask the question about whales, about sporting events that lost the most, gained the most, which games are on the up, which games are on the down, in a free text manner over their own data, it's like taking ChatGPT and pointing it at the enterprise. It's a really exciting proposition, and I've seen multiple operators really sort of say, pause everything, this is what we need.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Connected with Pragmatic Solutions. And today my guest is Lee Wright, Sales Director at ClickHouse. ClickHouse is an open source column-oriented OLAP database management system. Now, shorthand for thinking about what ClickHouse does, if you've ever seen Silicon Valley and you know the challenge that the Pied Piper team set out to do is compress data, that middle out architecture. Now, not a direct parallel, because the difference with ClickHouse is they've really done it. And they've created a performance system that compresses data and allows rapid real-time processing of data. And Lee's going to talk to us about it today. Lee, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure. It's great to be here.
Now, a serious business, ClickHouse. I noticed from looking into I'm always, when we started doing Connected, it was one of the objectives of this series was to learn more about businesses in the iGaming space. And some of those businesses overlap outside of the iGaming space into many other sectors. ClickHouse is a good example of that. And ClickHouse is a good example of a business I didn't really understand until we met a few weeks ago, and why I thought it'd be really important to get you on to Connected and explain to more people in the industry what ClickHouse does. But serious business, you've got serious backers, you've got Benchmark Capital, Lightspeed Ventures, Redpoint, and others that have backed the business in 2021. You work with companies like Anthropic and Tesla outside the iGaming industry, and I know you have many clients and a relevance to your product in the iGaming industry. So with that background, for those that may not be familiar with ClickHouse, can you tell us a bit about the background on the business, the unique proposition that you bring to this industry, and where ClickHouse is today?
Sure. I mean, as you said it, it is an open source column-oriented OLAP database, right? I've been in this industry a long time, and I truly believe you can't out-engineer open source. So the paradigm of column-oriented databases has been around for a long time, right? Vertica, Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery, these things have been around a long time, but we've reached a point of scale and speed that has just seen a massive inflection point, which is why ClickHouse is having such a moment. Because now when we talk about data sets, we start to talk about terabytes as the opening gambit. And we have customers with exabytes of data in ClickHouse today in production environments. What we're seeing in the iGaming space is a real desire to have real-time analytics, both for their internal users as well as their customers, who want to be able to ask questions like, how much have I won this month, lost this month? What game was the most profitable? And those type of questions need to be answered in real time using AI. And you need a back-end data infrastructure that isn't going to bankrupt you and is going to perform. And that's really where ClickHouse comes in. And that compression is the secret sauce that allows for that computation to run in such an efficient way.
I think that's one of the really important parts about what ClickHouse does is address the compression and the efficiency, because these types of big queries or big database management can be done, but it's a tremendous cost associated with it. And what you're doing with ClickHouse is compressing that and making the maintenance and the accessibility of that data in real time also cost efficient. How do you do that?
I spent the first 3 weeks at ClickHouse trying to find a silver bullet that sort of told me what the magic button was that made us different from other column-oriented databases. And a good friend of mine called Dale sat me down, and I was desperately trying to understand. And he said, listen, it's just our engineering team. It's written in C++, and they are obsessed with performance. So we have a public benchmark called ClickBench, where you can go yourself and basically have a look at how performant ClickHouse is compared to all of the other leading databases out there. And as soon as we slip down anywhere, as soon as anyone starts to catch up, the teams will just sit there and start optimizing all of the different algorithms, all of the different processes, from joins to storing the data to merging the data. And just every single time, it's just by 1,000 cuts, making this thing as fast, performant, and efficient as possible. And if you approach something like that, you're going to have an amazing result over the course of 10 years.
Okay, so let's maybe look at that in practice outside of the gaming industry first, and then we'll talk about how it applies to the iGaming industry. But um, maybe can we talk through some examples where you've dealt with massive data sets and quite demanding analytics demands of the business or the customers, and sort of what lessons were learned there, or what goals were achieved in implementing ClickHouse in those businesses?
The the sort of early adopters of any technology are the sort of Silicon Valley tech type companies, right? And so very early adopters of ClickHouse were the likes of Netflix, were the likes of Tesla, bringing in machine generated data that was as previously unseen in the sort of Web 2.0 era. And so really, we don't mind what the data set is, right? We think about the use cases in sort of four categories, really: real time analytics, data warehousing, observability, and AI and ML workloads. And so every conversation is ultimately the same, which is, hey, I'm trying to achieve one of those things, but my current solution is either cost prohibitive or not performant enough. And so it means every conversation is different but the same. And so for me, some of the early adopters like Deutsche Bank putting in all of their FX trade data so that they could run analytics for the entire organization, which they've presented publicly. But some of the massive ones are like Cloudflare. Now that is the entire internet's traffic being stored onto ClickHouse so that Cloudflare can understand what is going on across everything that runs through their estate. And the numbers are just mind-boggling.
I can imagine. And is there any compromise?
There's always trade-offs, right? So there's 300 plus databases out there. I vote with my feet, right? I work at ClickHouse because I see this being the moment that ClickHouse is what's needed in the market. Today, we don't have support for transactions. Now that will change in the future, but this is specifically designed as an analytical database today. We partner very, very well with Postgres. In fact, we even, as ClickHouse, the company, provide Postgres as a service now because so many people were asking us to provide sort of both ends, the transactional and the analytical databases, and with a seamless integration between the two of them.
So looking specifically at the iGaming sector, I know you said you're sort of impartial to what the data sets carry, what their topics are. But is there anything that, as you bring this technology to bear on the iGaming sector, are there any unique opportunities for operators or unique challenges in this industry that give an additional value to the ClickHouse solution?
What we're finding is that there is such a push for real-time information within iGaming right now, right? A great example is around affiliates. Affiliates are a huge part of the gaming industry, and ultimately they are pushing new campaigns all the time to try and drive usage by these operators, and they want to understand in real time what the impact of the dollars they're spending on marketing is on their bottom line. And so it's a perfect example of something that is taking multiple data sets, right? Like the affiliate data set, the player data set, the operator data set, where they're playing. So what iGaming platform they're then taking the games from, and providing that in a real-time feedback that can allow these affiliates then to in real time change how they're pushing and how they're marketing the operators they're pushing for.
Okay, but operators dealing with all sorts of data from different sources. That you mentioned gameplay, but there's also payments, there's marketing activity, there's transactional activity. Um, is there anything about structuring the data or um, segregating the different types of load that's put on the system depending upon the types of queries or the sources of data? And maybe a related question, where does ClickHouse sit in the tech stack? What is it, or where does the data originate from, and what ingestion happens into ClickHouse, and then what does ClickHouse publish to, or what services draw from ClickHouse?
Yeah, I mean, ClickHouse is a database, right? And so these operators and these iGaming companies, they have multiple databases in place today. And ultimately, ClickHouse can take from any sort of available API. Kafka is a very common source. You can land the data in CSV, in JSON, whatever is comfortable in your world, land that, and then enrich that data either on the way into ClickHouse or into ClickHouse, inside ClickHouse, and then report on it using standard BI tools. You can query it with LLMs, or you can then send that data back out to another source to be worked upon. The beauty and the curse of the database, right, is it backs every application on the planet, which means it does everything and nothing at the same time, right? And so the what it can do for the iGaming industry is quite frankly limited by the imagination. It's the paradigm of the cost and performance of the queries, of where you would sit there and run a batch report once a week for your affiliate. You would not be able to show a player in real time, hey, what sporting event has changed in odds the most in the last week, hour, month, right? These real time data sets are what we are coming to expect, right? And we're moving away from like static dashboards, static reports to I, as a user or a customer, want to be able to interrogate my data in real time, either using SQL or actually using AI.
What's interestingly about that is when I was introduced to ClickHouse and met you a few weeks ago, we talked about the cost efficiencies of compressing data and reducing storage costs. And I was thinking about it more from the economics of and also the capabilities in terms of queries. Uh, but I could see now from what you're describing, this is this is at the foundation of what is a product experience for the customer ultimately. So it can lead to product innovation or customer experience that wasn't possible or maybe not economical uh, without the likes of ClickHouse involved in the tech stack and providing the database. So it's really as much as it's a background product, it can touch the whole business in terms of operational insight, availability of data for insight purposes, but also for creating product experiences for the customer that are fed by real-time data that is suddenly accessible and economical to implement. Would that be, am I framing that right? Have I got that?
You are framing it perfectly.
All right. Okay. So beyond performance, infrastructure cost. How does the architecture of ClickHouse help companies manage the cost of storing and querying these large data sets? So, assuming we go back to the economic point for a minute, is there any statistics you could share? Is there anything where you've seen the impact of your compression on storage costs to a large scale business?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we have this fantastic blog which demonstrates the cost efficiency for ClickHouse as a data warehouse as compared to Snowflake, Databricks, BigQuery, and Redshift. The it almost sounds like hyperbole, where especially when you start getting into the sort of large data sets, it is orders of magnitude more efficient. With in some cases 100x cost savings. And again, it goes back to that secret source of compression, along with all of the other optimizations that have been made, and also our licensing model, right? First of all, it is open source. You can run it for free, as in free beer. And then there is that ClickHouse provides this as a fully managed service on top of all three cloud providers. And instead of penalizing you for number of queries used or amount of data you're ingesting. It's simply based on the amount of infrastructure you need. And the best thing about that is you can always optimize, right? You can always say, hey, if I'm not getting value out of this, I'll drop that, or I can run these queries faster, slower, however you want to do it. You can use less infra.
And as AI and machine learning become more embedded into digital platforms, how do you see the role of analytics infrastructure evolving over the next few years? Or even today? What are the demands that are changing today? And is ClickHouse relevant to addressing that?
So my my own use of ClickHouse is we, as ClickHouse, ingest all the usage of our customers on ClickHouse Cloud into ClickHouse itself. And we stick an LLM on top of that. And I will come in the morning and say, hey, what happened yesterday with my customers, right? That will then query an MCP server, which then has all of our business context, and then query ClickHouse. When I show this to clients and gaming operators, and they get to ask the question about whales, about sporting events that lost the most, gained the most, which games are on the up, which games are on the down, in a free text manner over their own data. It's like taking ChatGPT and pointing it at the enterprise. It's a really exciting proposition, and I've seen multiple operators really sort of say, pause everything. This is what we need. And ClickHouse is a foundational capability to provide that analytical capability.
Uh, I can imagine it is that because the impact is so dramatic that it must be difficult for you to explain sometimes. Like you say, it's hard not to use it to come across as hyperbole. Um, Now, Lee, it makes me interested. How did you come to be sales director at ClickHouse? How did you discover the business and get involved?
Sure. So I used to work at a company called Elasticsearch, which did, upon top of search, also some large scale log analytics solutions to the market. And the CRO of Elastic, Aaron Katz, saw the opportunity to take the open source project ClickHouse and create a company around it. I did that sort of 5 or so years ago, and I watched more and more of the customers, especially in the gaming industry, start adopting this technology, and some fantastic growth. And I picked up the phone to him. He's a man much smarter than me. I said, "Hey, are you looking for a team in the UK?" And he said, "Yeah, you can be first man on the ground." And that was just shy of 3 years ago.
Oh, that's a great initiative. That's a great story. Well, you backed the winner, that's for sure. So one way I like to think about it, if it's not in its simplest form, what would you say is the problem statement? If there's an operator listening to this today, what is the problem statement for which ClickHouse is the answer?
If you have analytical queries that are either not performant or not cost efficient, that is where ClickHouse can come in. Right? That's the foundational way in which people use to adopt us. Once you've got that one problem, right? It could be as I've used the affiliate use case a few times, but also it could be for observability, just like is my system up and down, or internal reporting, whatever that piece may be. Once you have that data in ClickHouse, it's that journey people then take to say, okay, well, what other queries can I do? Right? What other analytics can I run? What other business processes can I offload from expensive third-party solutions because I've got the data there and ready to go? The default for reference for people in my industry is to always talk about fraud analytics, because it's a very sort of easy to understand concept, right? Which is I have a bunch of business rules, and I can hit the database very, very rapidly and just say, hey, if this person placing this bet, were they, you know, in Kuala Lumpur yesterday and now in Brazil, is that going to set some alarm bells off? And then not only can you have your basic business rules, but then you can start adding machine learning on top to say, hey, what does normal look like and where are the variances from this, right? And
And
so people tend, go ahead.
no, I was going to ask you, how involved do you get, Lee, in solutionizing that with an operator beyond the scope of purely what ClickHouse is providing us in terms of the database management system? Do you get involved in advising as to how to benefit from how ClickHouse can support real-time analytics, or how that may impact areas of the business that the operator wasn't thinking about when they called you in the first instance?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a phenomenal team of solutions architects. The UK is headed up by Christoph Firm. Um, it's for me fascinating. It's the best part of the job to basically sit down with someone and find out about what they are trying to achieve, and then coming up with the types of queries, the data model, the data sources, the ingestion pattern that needs to happen in order to um, provide and deliver that business value. And so the team, we what we do is we have joint Slack channels. I know you're a team shop, and I can just open any one of them now and sort of look at sort of the types of questions, go from everything of like, hey, would this data set work, to, this query took us 1.2 seconds, but we actually want it to take 100 milliseconds. Let's have a conversation about how we can reduce it.
Right, right. No, it's interesting. You and I both share at Pragmatic Solutions. We sit as a critical technology hub in the operator's tech stack, and there's so many other. It led to conversations like this and connected, where there's so many other businesses and services that we connect to that complement the service of the PAM platform. And I love talking about problem solving with customers and finding the solutions that fit for their problems. And I think it's doing what you do. I could see why you would get involved in those conversations as well with customers about the implementation. Now that you have the benefits of ClickHouse, what are you going to do with it? So that is maybe a good segue to a closing question here, Lee. If someone is curious about now the benefits that ClickHouse could bring their business, how should they get in touch with you, and what is that first conversation like? Where does that begin?
Sure. I mean, obviously, we have a great website. Go to clickhouse.com, and there's sign up and try. I think is the first thing I would always say as someone is to load up ClickHouse Cloud. Um, for me, one of the easiest ways to get your head around using this is to just ingest some data. So I actually did this with a colleague of yours, Luis, who was able to ingest all of the sold property price data in the UK since 1995. So it's about 30 million records. It took us minutes to get something spun up, ingested, and him to ask it some queries. And it just continued the conversation to allow us to start having that aha moment of, wow, this is that much faster, and this is what we think we can do with it.
I don't know if that was something you suggested, but it was something that Luis got on the phone to me right after that test, and said we've got to take a closer look at this. Lee, I'm really grateful for you taking some time today to talk with me, and I hope that those of you watching have learned a little bit more about ClickHouse and are curious about how, if you're not using ClickHouse already, this could benefit your business and improve the ability for you to leverage real-time data across all aspects of the business, from marketing and business analytics to optimizing cost, storage cost, and query cost inside of your business. Lee, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for coming on Connected.
Thank you.